Hey, Katrina here from Scrappy Horses. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Okay, this video is going to be a long one. We have a lot to cover in this one. We're going to start off in Cricut Design Space, manipulating some images, some text, and just slicing and dicing and all sorts of fun. Then we're going to move over to the craft table where we're going to be doing some embossing. We're going to be using embossing folders, and I have a couple of tips that you may not have seen before, as well as some heat embossing with some ideas that might be new to you. So grab a cup of that favorite beverage and let's get started. This particular card is for the Cut It Up Challenge. Our theme over there this time is to use embellishments. So you want to use some embellishments on your card. I have made some fun embellishments as well as used some little brown pearl gems down in the lower right hand corner. I'll leave a link below to the challenge. We'd love for you to join us. All right, I have a very busy screen going on here. So let's just talk about what's here and get rid of some of it so it's a little less confusing. Okay, I want to start out and talk about where I found the images in Cricut Design Space. This particular piece right here, this gear, is Steve Sartorio. And I'm so sorry if I don't pronounce names correctly, but here they are on the screen so you can see them if you want to find them. This particular gear is from MagicArtLab. This little gear, again, is from Steve Sartorio. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and just move these out of the way here. All right, so we've got a couple of Steve's and one from Magic Art. This happy birthday sentiment is from mmakerr.me. The car is from Yvenin Dawn Originals, and I'm sorry, I know I butchered that one. And this particular card with the sentiment is Viktor Losev. So I'll bring that right up here. And the digital paper is Digital Delights Steampunk Digi Paper, and it is retired. So we'll stick that up there. Okay, that cleaned us up a little bit. So now you know where you can find everything. Everything is in Cricut Design Space except for the digital paper. I imported that, but everything else is in Cricut Design Space. All right, let's get started with this card. This piece right here is the card base. It is an 8.5 by 5.5 folded over, and it just makes the card base. So we'll just set that aside. I came in and chose a 3.75 by 5 inch layering piece with my design paper. So to start this project, let's just pull in a square. So let's go to shapes, grab a square. This is new in Design Space. This little tab right here, you have to click it so it will go away. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make it 3.75 by 5. So I'm going to come up to this box and lock, type in 3.75 and 5. Oops, I got my width and my height. That's no big deal. I'll just rotate it 90. All right, now we have the correct size. Now, if you're unsure how to grab your paper, all you need to do is come into your basic operation, come down, left click print and cut, left click your square, left click color, pattern, and then search out your pattern. When you find your pattern, you left click, and it'll come in right there. You can edit that pattern and you can make it bigger or smaller, whichever you like. Okay, and I'm just going to leave it right there. Next, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to duplicate this. I left click, then I right click duplicate. This is going to be for the inside of my card, this piece right here. It's going to be a little smaller. I made it 4.86 by 3.65. I probably just came in and did something like this. And that's how I came up with that odd number. I just manipulated it right here. Okay, next, let's go back to this front piece. So we're going to set this aside for right now. Next, we're going to come in and we're going to talk about the piece that's going to go on top of that. Now, this little rectangle piece is 3.82 by 2.12. I did that by grabbing a square and manipulating my shape. Let's turn that white. So we're going to come up and here's our black square. We're going to left click, turn it white. I'm going to move that out of the way. All right. Now, I liked this car, but I liked this sentiment. So what are you going to do? Well, easily fixed. First, let's get our car. I want him to drive the other direction. So I'm going to come up here. I'm going to flip him horizontally. I'm going to make him smaller just by grabbing that little square in the corner and pushing it in. Let's move him to the front. And make him a bit smaller yet. And there he is. Now, life is too short to drive boring cars. Okay. I'm going to come over here to Shapes, left click, grab a square, get rid of the little box there. All I'm going to do is lay this over that text. You could also lay it over the car. Okay, either way works. We're just going to separate it. We're going to swipe with our mouse. I'm going to swipe over the car and that box. I'm going to come over to this right hand column, left click slice. And there it is. Easy, right? I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. I'm going to position it where I like it. Now, what you can do is you can get it where you like it with height. Then you can come in and take the whole thing, swipe over, align, and let's center horizontally. And now it's all centered. While it's all still selected, I can flatten, and this piece is now done. I wanted a layering piece. I'll be honest, I cut that at the at my craft table. I just sliced a piece of paper on my paper slicer. But you can do it in Cricut Design Space. You just come down here, hit offset, decide how big you want it, offset. I squared my corners by clicking here, hit apply, and you've got it. This little piece we're going to talk about at the craft table. That was not done in Cricut Design Space. This little piece that we're going to put in, again, was one of the cuts that I picked up. I simply went over to images, typed in gears. There's a huge selection of gears. And I just brought it in. So that takes care of everything on the front. Easy, right? All right. Let's get rid of all of this. Clean up our space a little bit. Let's bring in this piece now that we've made a little bit smaller. We're just going to make it just a little smaller yet. This is so easy to do our insert. This is also really fun. And what we're going to do is we're going to bring in another shape, click to get rid of that, bring this in, size it where you like it. I'm going to sweep over the entire thing. I'm going to align center. I'm going to choose just this inside rectangle, turn it white. I'm going to bring in this gear. Now, this gear originally came in dark, so let's just change the color for a minute so you'll see. And it came in as a basic cut. So what I did is I just laid it in here, okay? And I did the same thing with this one. Then I changed them to this very light gray color. Then I brought in the happy birthday. I'm going to move that to the front. Lay it right in over the top in this heavy, darker, right? This darker black color. So it's black. I'm going to change this little guy. Let's move him over a little bit. I'm going to change that to a little lighter gray. Let's change this one to a little lighter gray too. Now we're going to bring this in, position it where we like it. Remember, you're going to want to keep it so that you've got room to sign your name down here or write a little something. Take everything, sweep over it all, come over and flatten. Isn't that great? So now everything is all in one piece, but it has these little gears behind there. Of course, if there are any comments or questions, please leave them below. Okay, let's move on over to the craft table. I have a lot to share over there also. We are here at the craft table, and I'm just going to share the pieces we have. There's our little gear we've cut and the piece that outlines the car. This is a special piece we're going to talk about a little bit later in the video. Here is our car with our sentiment. And here's our insert and designer paper and the black card blank. Let's get started with this gear. We're just going to press it into this big and bossy embossing ink pad. It's a really large pad. I really like it. And we're going to pour over some embossing powder. I'll link below exactly what the name of this embossing powder is. But I'm going to coat it pretty heavily and then shake off my excess. After I put the rest of that powder back in the jar, I'm going to come in with the heat gun and we're just going to heat that up. It's not extremely shiny. It's more of it's got a little shine to it, but it's a little bit more of a matte finish. It's kind of a cool powder. Next, I'm going to dip it back in, but just parts of it. And I'm coming in with 2 different powders. I've combined these 2 powders into that little jar. It's a gold and a copper. Now, I'm just going to sprinkle this about a little bit. I'm not going to coat the entire gear, just sections of it. And then I'm going to come in and just put little itty bitty bits around where I didn't put it before. This kind of will grunge it up a little bit and add just a little bit of that gold copper sparkle. Now we're just going to heat emboss it again. So you can heat emboss something twice if you've not done that before. I'm noticing next to my embellishments, this focal piece right here is looking a little bit white. So I'm going to dinge it up a little bit, yellow it up with a little bit of some ink. I believe it's probably cashmere from Close to My Heart. And then I'm going to go around the edge of a piece of layering piece with the same color. I'm going to adhere my designer paper to that layering piece. And now I'm putting the insert into the inside of my card. Now I'm going to put the outside designer paper with the layering piece on the outside of my card. And I'm just going to eyeball this and use my ATG to put that into place. Next, I'm going to lay everything out and get an idea of how this is going to fit onto my card front. And I'm going to get a little bit of Fabri-Tac and secure my gear. Now, this does have a little bit of that embossing powder stuck to the back of it. You know, when you emboss something, sometimes that happens. So I wanted to make sure that it was going to stick. So I just brought in the Fabri-Tac and used that. Now I'm cutting some cereal box to put on the back of my focal point here, just to lift it up off of my embellishing pieces here. That way it'll lay flat on the card. All right, let's address the elephant in the room. What is that silver piece right there that looks like metal? Well, I was gonna wait and use this in a different video, but I thought, no, I'll just put it in this video. I've come in with this 3D embossing folder, and I'm going to emboss this piece of cardstock that is stuck onto scrapbook.com double-sided tape. It's like a sheet of tape. Again, I'll list that below so you'll find it. I've already stuck the cardstock onto the tape, and now I'm cutting off the excess tape. Now, what I have there is the actual cardstock with the tape. I'm going to pull off the liner, and this is really sticky, and I'm putting it on top of aluminum foil. Right? I'm keeping that foil as flat as I can as I just sort of rub it on to the cardstock. Now, I'm folding the edges around because I wanted to keep my edges silver, or yeah, I didn't want them white. I didn't want them to show as cardstock. I wanted it to look like a metal piece. So I'm wrapping it around and sort of mitering the corners as I go. Now, I saw this on a demo, and I really loved the idea of using foil and running it through the through your embossing machine in an embossing folder. Now, depending upon the folder you're using, as well as the machine you're using, you might need to change your shims a little bit. I'm using a 3D embossing folder, so I'm using my regular plate, but then I'm just using a double thickness of cereal board. That's all I'm using to get this. And there it is. Isn't that so cool? It's so shiny and fun. Now, in the demo that I saw using this, the crafter came in and just put ink over it. And I tried that, and it did not work for me because it wouldn't dry. I mean, I left it for days and it did not dry. So I came up with this solution. I'm coming in with clear gesso, okay? And with my finger, I'm just lightly dabbing it over. I'm not even, I mean, it's such a thin layer. And in fact, you're gonna see me come in with a paper towel and just rub away any excess, okay? It does take away some of the shine, but there's still shine there, and your ink will dry because it will dry right into this gesso. So now I'm bringing in the ink pad, and I'm just gonna hit those highlights with some of this cashmere ink. Coming in with some Bo Bunny spray, and I will link that below. And I'm just hitting the very highest parts of this. This is sort of a golden black, and it has a lot of sparkle to it, but it really grunges it up, and I think it's a lot of fun. Now, this particular piece is not exactly the piece I used on this card. I just did this as an extra demo within this particular video. All right, so now I'm going to take this piece, and I'm just going to put it down with a little bit of Fabri-Tac. I believe I also put a strip of double-sided tape under there. Now here's my focal image that's going over the top. Remember, I put cereal board behind that, cereal box board behind that focal image, so that now it sits very flat up on top of these embellishments. All right, if you watch many of my videos, you know that if I'm getting the gems or the pearls out, we're getting close to the end, and we are. I decided it would be fun to just fill in that spot down there at the bottom right-hand corner with a few of these little pearls, and I'm going to use a dark brown, so it sort of looks like little nail heads down there, and that would kind of give it a rugged but festive and fun look. Thanks so much for joining me today. We covered a lot of fun things in this video. Any comments or questions, please leave them in the box below. I'm more than happy to answer. Also, we'd love to see you over at the challenge. I will leave that link in the box below, as well as links for some of the different products that I use, so you'll be able to find those. Have a wonderful, wonderful week, and I will catch up with you in the next video. Bye.